As a salon or spa owner, cosmetology school gave you the skills to serve clients, but it definitely didn't teach you how to run a business. Somewhere along the way, you probably thought ownership would mean freedom, but instead you're working more hours than ever, barely paying yourself, and low-key worried everything's going to fall apart the second you step away. Welcome to the Beauty Biz Breakdown, where we give you the real strategies, systems, and structure that you need to fully step into the CEO seat in your beauty business. Hey friends, welcome back to the Beauty Biz Breakdown, the go-to podcast for salon and spa owners who are ready to build more profitable, more predictable beauty businesses. I am coming at you solo today, and I want to talk about something that is really all over the beauty industry right now. And I've kind of been sitting on my feelings for it for a few weeks because honestly, my feelings are just a little bit complicated. So the thing being talked about is how the federal government basically wants cosmetology schools to prove that their graduates are actually making money after they leave school. And honestly, I am not mad about that part. But I am a little worried about some of the things that will happen next. So today we're going to get into all of it. What's happening, why people in the industry are in an uproar, and why I think this could have a pretty major impact on the future of the industry that we all love. So let's just jump straight into it. There is this rule, and it is called the do no harm. It's an earnings premium rule, and it falls under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that got signed into law back in July of 2025. Now, originally, this was supposed to apply more to degree programs and graduate programs. But when the Department of Education started applying it, they also applied it to certificate programs too, which is where cosmetology schools, barber schools, massage programs, all of that falls under. Right now, cosmetology schools and a lot of the organizations tied to beauty education, they're pushing back hard on how all of this is being measured. So there are lawsuits happening, organizations fighting, people still doing things in Congress. And a lot of people are arguing that this rule was just never really meant to hit the beauty industry the way that it is now. Let's talk about what this rule actually means, though. So these schools basically now have to prove that students leaving their programs are making enough money after graduation. And they have to be making as much as somebody who came out of high school and went straight into a job. Now, they have to do this in a very specific way. And if they fail those measurements multiple years in a row, the programs can lose complete access to federal funding. So, no more Pell Grants, no student loans, nothing like that. And the Department of Education's own projections, they're saying that 92.5% of cosmetology schools will fail this test. 92%, guys, that's huge. We're talking about 1,400 accredited programs across the country and about 150,000 students every single year potentially being impacted by this. Remember, most beauty school students, they rely on financial aid just to even afford school in the first place. This is one of those industries that takes a ton of federal spending. Now, I do think schools have some really, really valid points here when it comes to how everything is being measured. Because you know as well as I do, this industry, it takes years to build in. Most people are not leaving cosmetology school immediately fully booked and making amazing money right outside the gate. It takes time to build behind the chair. It takes time to build trust with your clients. It takes time to learn how to raise your pricing and to be able to do it. It takes time to really establish yourself in this industry. Now, if we're talking about student aid, we have to talk about the debt side of things, right? Because that pressure is real. There's nothing like finishing school already sitting under a pile of student loan debt before you even have a chance to establish yourself behind the chair or build any kind of real income yet. In a lot of jobs, you get placed straight into that job and you start making a salary or a really good livable wage. But our industry is not that way. It's just not. And I think this is actually a big part of why so many schools are super, super frustrated right now. Cosmetology keeps getting pulled into this much larger federal student debt conversation And a lot of the school owners, they feel like that was never really what these regulations were designed for in the first place. But there's another side to all of this. The federal government is not wrong to have concerns about this either. A significant, and when I say significant, I mean a huge amount of federal financial aid flows into cosmetology school programs every single year. And when you look at that data on how much of that money is actually being repaid, it's not a pretty picture. Not a pretty picture at all. A lot of those loans are actually defaulting. And when you're talking about federal dollars, that is ultimately taxpayer conversations. So it makes sense that as part of the big beautiful bill and the broader push to restructure how federal student aid works, cosmetology schools kind of end up in the crosshairs. Whether that is fair or not, that's kind of a whole different discussion. But it is how we get here, where we are today with all of these conversations going on. Here's where my feelings kind of start to get just a little bit more complicated with these issues. I also think this situation is forcing people to finally say something out loud that people in the beauty industry have quietly complained about for many, many years. A lot of people are leaving cosmetology schools completely underprepared. And I know that makes people uncomfortable when it gets said out loud, but I think we all know that there is a ton of truth to it. I mean, I went to cosmetology school a long time ago, and I spent over $25,000 for that school. Yes, I was stupid for spending that amount of money. It was a lot of money back then. I can't even imagine what some of the top schools are charging now. But when I left, I genuinely was not prepared to do this job at all. I mean, yeah, I learned a little bit of basic hair cutting. I remember getting handed a paper that had the color wheel on it. I learned how to do a blowout. That's probably one thing I learned how to do really, really well. But that is literally all I walked away with after $25,000 and all of those hours of my life. I left school with no real understanding of formulation and blonding and toning and consultations and client communication, how to manage expectations in this industry. There was nothing about how to build your clientele, how to retain clients, how to do rebooking, how to increase your income, or how to financially survive behind the chair long term. And when it came to the business side, forget about it. Pricing, profitability, taxes, what it actually costs to run an actual salon or a suite. None of that was talked about, taught. It wasn't even in the curriculum. Not that they followed the curriculum at all, because I remember seeing the book and there was a lot of stuff in there that I just didn't learn. So when people ask me whether cosmetology schools should have some level of accountability attached to the outcomes, honestly, yeah, 100%. I do think students deserve way better preparation than what a lot of people are currently getting. But then that kind of opens up a whole nother can of worms, right? This is the part that I keep coming back to. Hiring right now is already hard. Salon owners all over the country are already struggling to hire. I work with hundreds of them every single month, and it is the same thing that I hear from each and every one of them. We're struggling to find good people. We are already struggling to build our teams. That's just how it is. So, what exactly happens if these cosmetology schools start shutting down all over the nation? But what particularly is going to happen in states like Texas, where I live, where there is not another legal pathway into this industry. Guys, there are only 22 states in our country that currently allow a second pathway. And that pathway is apprenticeships. That means a huge part of our country, beauty school is literally the only way that you can get into this industry. And even in the states where apprenticeships are legal, I still think there are a lot of unanswered questions there too. Because if apprenticeships really do become a bigger part of the future of this industry, who exactly is carrying the financial responsibility of teaching and training all of these new stylists? Because right now, salon owners are already struggling financially in a lot of cases. Owners are already trying to cover payroll, inventory, rent, education, marketing, taxes, front desk support, all of it. And the reason is most of them have never been taught how to do it correctly. So if the expectation eventually becomes that salon owners are now also responsible for training the next generation from the ground up, are there going to be grants? Are there going to be tax credits? Is there going to be financial support? Are they going to be paid training programs? Is there going to be anything at all? Or is the expectation just that salon owners absorb all of that responsibility financially too? Because teaching somebody from scratch is freaking expensive. It takes a lot of time, a lot of mentorship. There's a lot that goes into it. Product usage, right? Extra support, mistakes that have to be corrected. And it really does take a lot of energy from the people that are doing the training. I think this is one of the biggest questions that nobody has an answer for yet. And honestly, it's not being talked about much. I think we really, really have to start thinking about this. I mean, like I said earlier, hiring is pathetic as it is. But in my state, if cosmetology schools close down in 5 years, there is going to be nobody left to hire because nobody can get into this industry. So we really have to think about this. You know, another one of the things that I keep thinking about with all of this going on that I really haven't heard hardly anything about is who this industry has always been for. This industry has helped so many people completely change their life. A ton of single moms, women leaving bad relationships, people who couldn't afford a 4-year degree, people who struggled in traditional school settings, immigrants, people of color, people trying to start over financially. This industry has always been one of those careers where somebody could build something really amazing for themselves without needing some huge, expensive degree first. I think that's why this whole thing feels bigger to me than just schools fighting with the government over regulations. Because if these schools start disappearing in certain areas and there's no replacement pathways being created alongside of it, especially pathways that allow financial aid of any kind, eventually access in this industry is going to get really, really hard for a certain demographic of people. And that's really, really sad to think about. You know, with all this being said, I could probably talk about this for a very, very long time. And there's a ton of other things that I could bring up, but I didn't want to bore you guys with some hour-long conversation into all of this. I just wanted to get this information out here. Let's talk about what salon owners should actually be doing right now instead of just watching all of this happen from the sidelines. We have got to start getting involved. We can't stay on the sidelines like we have for freaking decades. So, what can you do? Well, first, you have to start paying attention to the organizations that are fighting the parts of this rule that the beauty industry is concerned about or that you're concerned about. AACS, the American Association of Cosmetology Schools, and PBA, the Professional Beauty Association, they are both heavily involved in this right now. They actually have a campaign that's called My Secret Impact, and it's focused on a lot of the measurement issues and the way this is all being applied to cosmetology schools. Get on their freaking email list. Follow what is happening. Because the people that are making these decisions, they're not salon owners. They're not behind the chair all day. In fact, the majority of them, they're not even in this industry. They don't fully understand how careers in this industry are actually built over time. And that perspective matters so, so much. The second thing you can do is if you are in one of the states that does allow apprenticeship programs, now's the time to actually start researching what those actually look like if you're not utilizing them already. And not just the idea of it, but the actual requirements. what you would legally need to have in place, how much time it would realistically take from you as the owner, and whether your business is even structured to support something like that properly. Because I do think there is a real opportunity there for the right salon owner who approaches this the right way, but you're going to have to figure out how it needs to be structured and get that in place well ahead of time. And then third, if you are in a state like Texas, where apprenticeships are not currently a legal pathway, you need to start paying attention to what starts happening at the state level over the next few months and the next few years. Because I really do think this federal pressure is going to push more states to start exploring alternative pathways so people can continue coming into this industry. The thing is, when those conversations happen, salon owners have to be involved and they have to be paying attention. Because if decisions about the future of our industry education start getting made without us being involved, that is going to create a whole different set of problems later on. So really just start getting involved. This is one of the things that I have made a point of doing throughout 2026. I used to be really, really involved, and then I kind of got tired of the politics of it all, and I stepped back a little bit. But we can't do that. I've realized, especially for the successful people in this industry, I run a very successful salon. My input could help tremendously. And it's my job to do that for future generations. All right, friends, let's wrap this up. Look, I do think accountability in cosmetology education matters. I really do. I lived through paying a ton of money and leaving school completely underprepared. Completely. But I also think that if we start shrinking the pathway into the beauty industry without any alternatives already in place, we're going to be in big trouble. I think salon owners just need to start paying attention to everything now instead of waiting until the decisions are already reshaping the industry around us. Whether people realize it or not, changes like this eventually affect hiring. They affect team development. They affect growth. They affect profitability. They literally affect everything. And this is exactly why I'm always telling you guys to stop waiting until things become a crisis before you start building structure inside of your salon or spa business. Look, if you need help building a salon that is actually profitable, structured, and sustainable long-term, go to our website, thebeautybizagency.com. You can grab a ton of our free resources. You can check out our coaching options, or you can book a free strategy call with us, and we will help you figure out what actually needs attention in your business right now. That's what I've got for you guys. Thanks for joining me today. If this episode helped you think about this topic maybe just a little bit differently, or made you aware of this topic because you didn't know about it, send it to another salon or spa owner, because I really do think this is one of those topics our industry is going to have to start getting involved in. And if you have a free second, please leave us a 5-star review. That helps us out more than you guys know. Also, make sure that you're following us on all platforms so you never miss out on what we have coming up next. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Beauty Biz Agency and on TikTok at The Beauty Biz Mentors. That's a wrap. You've been listening to the Beauty Biz Breakdown, where salon owners stop making big decisions when they're unsure, and they start making decisions that actually support their business. Until next time, stay true to who you are and true to what you want. Now go out there, make bank, run the show, and ditch that chair. And as always, keep slaying those business goals with a whole lot of swagger. If this episode lit a fire under you, don't just walk away and let it die out. Deep down, you already know where you want your business and your life to go. And the truth is, the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is a real plan to get you there. That's exactly what we help you build. So if you're ready to stop trying to figure it out on your own, head to thebeautybizagency.com and book your free strategy call. That call can give you the clarity that you've been needing and a real plan to move your business forward. Because at the end of the day, the only thing standing between you and the salon business you've been dreaming about is whether or not you're willing to take the action and the steps in order to build it.